start? Okay, and a little softer on. All right, a new season is upon us, and could it be a very special one in oil country? It all kicks off tonight on the West Coast as we get you set for the Oilers and Canucks on the Oil Stream Pregame Show. Hi, everybody. Tom Gazzola and Joaquin Gage with you inside the Edmonton Sports Talk studios as we get set for game number one of the 2023-2024 regular season. Gager, finally, no more preseason. All the hype, all the hoopla. This team, is it for real? We have all the answers on day number one, right?
I hope I do, Tommy.
Yes.
But, how nice is it that we don't have to talk about preseason games anymore? This is for real. I was talking to you before, just being out and about in the city today, seeing young kids with jerseys on, older gentlemen and women with jerseys as well. Yes. Saw some of the new Heritage Classic jerseys, lots of those out there. Definite feel in the city of Edmonton, knowing that it's game on. The regular season starts tonight. The Oilers are in such a good position to start this season. We've heard all about the 2 weeks prior, the captain's skate. They're serious. I think this is going to be a special season. It's the how does Woodcroft say it? It's the audition till game 83 or the.
Oh yeah, that's one of those things. Yeah, that he likes to say. I like how you pick. When I hear those, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'm just gonna disregard that in my mind. Anyway, he's got a lot of those Woodcroft isms, if you will.
Woody-isms. Yeah.
Woody-isms. We're gonna hear a bunch of those later on in the show. We'll hear from head coach Jay Woodcroft. We'll also hear from Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet. Not really weird hearing that anymore, that he's the Canucks head coach, but it's still kind of like, oh, yeah, he took over, partway through last season. And we'll see now with Tocchet at the helm through a full training camp, kind of having a renewed, refreshed roster, seeing what he can do with this club in Vancouver. Yesterday, Connor Garland, we heard the news that he has requested a trade. So that's not a great way to start the year, I suppose. We'll talk to Ian McIntyre from Sportsnet Vancouver, who will give us the scoop in about 5 minutes' time. But, Gager, in your time playing pro hockey, have you gone into a season where one of your top six forwards is already demanding a trade and it leaks the day before opening night?
Yeah, it just came back to, I think, a money issue with Garland, not knowing where he's going to fit in. To be quite honest, I always liked his game, Tommy. Kind of a little buzzsaw, a lot of energy, some skill there. It's exactly what you mentioned. You don't want something like this to happen at the beginning of the year, especially with one of your top six guys coming off a season that the Vancouver Canucks had. New coach, new philosophy in the dressing room. This is a team that, I think a lot rests on Thatcher Demko this season.
We'll see him tonight.
We'll see him tonight, but I really like him as a goalie. I think he's a fantastic goaltender, but I don't think he can shoulder the weight for 60 to 65 games.
Right.
Get them into a position where they are battling for a playoff spot and then have success in the playoffs. That's just too much for him to handle. They're going to have to split the load a little bit this year.
Casey DeSmith, they picked him up recently. Is he someone that you could have a lot of faith in?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just in that, I'd say, I guess I don't want to say 1B. I'd say number 2 role, right? I think I could comfortably put him in that position. How many games, Tommy? 15, 20, 25 in there, I think.
Yep.
It would be great for the Canucks if he could do 25.
25 if you don't want Demko getting burnt out,
exactly, right? Exactly. And if he can provide, maybe there's always going to be some valleys during the year. If he can pick up the fumble and run with it for a few games and allow Thatcher Demko, if needed, get his game back to a level where it needs to be for the Canucks to have success. That's best case scenario for the Vancouver Canucks.
Okay. Ian McIntyre joining us shortly. If you wanted to get in on the conversation, Hit us up via the text line 780-218-9999. I've got my eyes on that, as well as the nasty chat. Looks like we have a decent amount of people starting to creep in. Tell your friends. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you're watching on our EST YouTube channel. All right, Gage, we're going to get into the starting lineups right now, and then we'll get into Ian McIntyre from Vancouver out there covering the team for Sportsnet. For the Oilers, an optional morning skate. This is something Dusty and I were a little bit surprised by going into Game 1, but here's what we anticipate. McDavid between Kane and Brown, Draisaitl with Nugent Hopkins and Hyman, McLeod between Holloway and Fogle, and then Janmark and Ryan as the extra forwards. We're anticipating 11 and 6 potentially. Nurse Bouchard paired up together. We've seen them all through the preseason. Kulak with Ceci, and then I'm putting Broberg and Desharnais by default as the third pairing, and that's if Matthias Ekholm can't go. Matthias Ekholm did skate late with Stuart Skinner. That means what, Joaquin Gage?
That will most likely see Jack Campbell tonight. Yes. It's funny how you mentioned the optional pregame skate, which never existed when I played. There was always a pregame skate. The only time it became optional usually got into that January area where the schedule, you'd played a lot, giving some guys rest. I think Cass and I had an actual argument on two guys last year because I remember going to a game, showing up just for pregame skate, and I was shocked that no one skated. And it was probably 4 games in. The schedule wasn't that busy. So Cass was on the other side of the coin with he thought, you know what, give them rest. Does it really help you that much? To me, I always liked it. Just feel the equipment, get a little bit of a sweat on. We'll see. There'll be an argument if things don't go well for the Edmonton Oilers tonight without the pregame skate.
I just thought it was an interesting move. A very thorough practice before they flew to Vancouver yesterday here in Edmonton, and then the optional pregame skate. Skinner was in the quote-unquote starters net yesterday and today in Vancouver, and then Campbell was off first, so trickery already in game number 1. Here's what we're anticipating for the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Elias Pettersson with Andre Kuzmenko and Connor Garland. JT Miller between Philip DiGiuseppe and Brock Besser. Pius Suter between Dakota Joshua and Anthony Beauvillier. And then Sam Lafferty centering Nils Höglander and potentially Teddy Bluger. He was a little nicked up, but he was supposedly a game-time decision. On defense, Quinn Hughes with Philip Hronik. Ian Cole with Tyler Myers, Carson Soucy with Noah Juleson. If that is the lineup, that means no Mikheyev, no Brisebois, and no Hirose. Starting goalies for the Oilers, you heard Jack Campbell gets the nod. 31-year-old, 21-9-4 last season, 341 GAA, 888 save percentage. Those numbers not good enough, Gager. One shutout in 36 games last year. 3-0 in the preseason with a .99 GAA, 971 save percentage, and just 3 goals allowed on 104 shots in the exhibition games. For Vancouver, 27-year-old Thatcher Demko, 14-14-4 record last year, 316 goals against average, and a 901 save percentage with 1 shutout in 32 games. And this preseason for Demko, 2-1 record, 204 GAA, 917 save percentage in 3 appearances this exhibition season. Is Ian McIntyre ready to roll? Yes, he is indeed. Our friend from Sportsnet out in Vancouver, Ian McIntyre. IMAC, thank you for coming on. Now that we're not part of that network, the 3-letter network, it's nice to expand our horizons and tap into the Sportsnet talent. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a long time coming. How's everything going in Vancouver? What's the buzz like going into this season for the Canucks?
Well, it's a little different today than yesterday because yesterday there was panic and chaos as has existed for most of the last 3 years here, with the story breaking from our friend Elliot Friedman that Connor Garland's agent has been green-lighted to go ahead and work out a trade, and we can talk about that nonsense if you like. But it was kind of, it'd been such a quiet, peaceful, tranquil, serenity now training camp. And so we let our guard down, and look what happened yesterday. Suddenly it was the upheaval and turmoil of the last 3 years all over again. But today, I got to say, today at the rink, there is that buzz. It is special opening night, especially opening night at home. And the Canucks have had their last couple in Edmonton, I think. I know that Quinn Hughes is starting season 5, and season 1 began in Edmonton. And he went out as a 19-year-old to start the game with Chris Tanev. And, of course, who comes out for Edmonton, but McDavid and Draisaitl. Yeah. And so Quinn Hughes said to Chris Tanev, and it was Tanev who told me all this after the fact. Quinn Hughes says to him, are we staying out, or are we going to quick change? And Tanev says, no, we're staying out. And Hughes said, all right, let's go. And the guy was made for great things, Quinn Hughes, and has had a pretty good career since then, still getting better. I did learn a couple of things from you going through their lineup there, Tommy.
Yep.
First of all, you're mispronouncing Puce.
Oh, Puce, sorry.
Not Pius Suter, it's Puce. But I got to give you credit as well. If I'm going to reprimand you, I've got to give you credit.
Okay.
I learned something about the Canucks being on hold on Edmonton radio, because I didn't think Carson Soucy was going to play tonight. So maybe you know something that I don't. Maybe he's had a rapid recovery, but as of this morning, he looked like he was going to miss the game. Canucks, I guess, like the Oilers, having a little mini injury crisis to start the year. There's a good chance that they'll be playing a player short tonight, which is why they had called up Akito Hirose. They thought they would need him on defense, but we'll see. We'll see. Luckily, none of the injured Canucks are far away, and the group is Soucy and Brisebois and Teddy Bluger, and of course Ilya Mikheyev is still recovering from ACL surgery, but he's really, just day to day at this point. In fact, he's been fully practicing with the team for a couple of days and been skating with them in a non-contact jersey really since training camp began. So they're going to get all these guys back. I'm sure they're hoping to get at least a couple of them back before game 2 in Edmonton on Saturday. And maybe you're right. Maybe we're going to see Soucy tonight.
Mac, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sweating a little bit because I should have said projected Canucks lines via Brendan Batchelor and trying to piece it together. So I could be totally wrong, and that's on me. But I appreciate you calling me up, because that's what we got to do. We got to take care of each other in this business. Yeah. Okay, I know the.
By the way, Brendan is plugged in, and he does his little one-on-one with the coach, so he may know something that the rest of us don't.
Okay, see, now I'm learning things, and I will refer to Mr. Suter as Puce going forward. I did get Hooglander, though, right? I got Hooglander. I know we're dropping the U out there. No?
Yeah, there's some in your school. There's a lot of Hooglander, which I think is acceptable. Hoglander is not. Not part of the pig family. Not a Hoglander. Okay?
I like that.
Did you, Gager, do you want to get to the Connor Garland stuff?
No. How is this going to affect the overall chemistry of the team with having a player like Connor Garland, who was counted on for offense in the top 6 of the Canucks, now asking for a trade and finding all this out? It's hard to get this information out of people, but Ian, do you think this is going to cause a little bit of a disruption, especially when you want, after the way the season went for the Vancouver Canucks last year? Is this something that you really want to try to avoid, at least, or get something done as soon as possible so you can have that hockey players, we do like to have everything status quo and not a lot of changes or disruptions, especially at the start of the season?
Well, I think it was a little disruptive yesterday just because it was counter to the narrative that began as soon as training camp opened, which was that, the chaos is over. We're moving past the clutter, all that emotional baggage and the scars of the last 3 years. And it's now, singular focus on getting ready for game 1. And really that's the way it was until yesterday. So it was a little disruptive that way. But I have to say that most of the reaction, or a lot of the reaction to this Garland story has been out of proportion with what the shock value or surprise value might actually be. Because, we have known, and, Patrick Allvin, the GM, and Jim Rutherford, the president, really didn't make any secret of it. They didn't name names, but they've basically said since they arrived here in the winter two seasons ago that they have to find a way to create some cap flexibility. And last year they were looking at Brock Besser, and his name got out there as well. His agent was enlisted to see if he could find a team to take Brock. Of course, it didn't transpire. Brock ends up, kind of getting in a much better emotional state after the passing of his father, realizes the Canucks weren't the problem. His grief and his emotions were the problem, and he rescinds his trade. I'm not predicting that Connor Garland is going to finish this 5-year contract with Vancouver, but this really isn't anything new. I think the sides have communicated in the past. In fact, I know that they have. And the Canucks have tried to move Connor Garland, among others. And, Tyler Myers is another guy who's named constantly since this regime got here was in the rumor mill because, $6 million for a guy who's an 18-minute defenseman, that's not good value. And for a team that's being squeezed by the cap, that's a kind of contract that you want to move. And that's why Connor Garland's name has been involved, because at $5 million, he's a good player. But so far, he's still a complementary player on this team. He's not one of the core players or hasn't been yet an impact player on this team. And so for $5 million, yeah, of course, that's a contract they're going to look to move to create some cap flexibility. The other half of that relationship, though, I think that Garland hasn't been, I wouldn't say he's been disgruntled. I haven't seen him unhappy. I'm around the team a lot. Mm-hmm. He's a very professional guy. In fact, I remember last year going to him when I thought he should have played a lot more in a game, and we were just chatting off the record. And I said, "Oh, is it tough? Like when you're playing well and you're not getting rewarded?" He says, "No, I have to play better." And this is off the record, not for the sake of a quote. He's telling me, "You want to play more in this league? You play better. Then you'll get to play more." So he's not a guy that goes around complaining or bringing his problems to the group. But I think he would like if a bigger opportunity than what he's had in Vancouver. So this has kind of been mutually driven for a while, that Connor Garland may feel that he wants a change or a bigger opportunity. The Canucks know that they need some salary cap space, so it's been in both their interests to see if there's another team out there who wants him. But the story comes out yesterday, and a lot of people think, on the eve of a season when there's so much optimism and positivity finally around this group, suddenly Connor Garland wants out. And that wasn't the case.
Was I reading correctly that his contract is back-end loaded, where he would be owed quite a large sum of money, at $17 million
the next 3?
Yeah. Did that factor into any of the planning as well?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help, but yeah. To that point, Tyler Myers' salary for the rest of this season is $1 million. Right, and he's got a $6 million cap hit, and it really hasn't been since last season that his name has been hot on the rumor mill, and Patrick Allvin has said a couple of times over the summer, and he repeated it, that he has no intention of trading Tyler Myers. But the reality is, once his $5 million bonus was paid in September, he's only going to cost another team $1 million, yet he's still here. Because nobody, I think, wants to take on even the cap hit at $6 million, or if they want to take on that or willing to take on that cap hit, they want a ransom to do it. And the Canucks, Tyler Myers is still an NHL player. He's overpaid at $6 million, but he's still an NHL player, and the Canucks aren't in a position where they're going to give somebody their first round pick or a second round pick simply to get rid of him. So, back to your question about Garland's contract, it's slightly backloaded. His cap hit is essentially $15 million rounded off for the next 3 years. The money owed to him is $17 million. So there's an extra couple of million there. Maybe it'd be easier if he was owed $13 million, but I don't think that's really the stumbling block. If there's a team that wants Connor Garland and has space to take on that cap hit, I don't think the extra $2 million in extra salary is what's going to dissuade them from making a deal.
Ian McIntyre joining us now, Sportsnet Vancouver, covering the Canucks. Also, I just want to reiterate, I love the Serenity Now Seinfeld reference in your article yesterday. Fantastic. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mac. Okay, what is your sense of Rick Tocchet as a head coach after he came in last season? Is he the right fit to help guide this Canucks team to prosperity?
Can I answer that 82 games from now?
Yes, we'll bring you back.
Yeah. Well, luckily we had a 30-game appetizer last year, so I think I will actually go ahead and answer. And I'll say he is the right fit in the sense that this team really was just. I mean, I talked about the chaos off the ice. There was chaos on the ice as well with the way they played, particularly towards the end of Bruce Boudreau's short and meteoric time as the head coach. And what they really needed was some defensive structure, and they needed accountability because, Bruce, as has been his way, and he's won a ton of games. Like, no one can argue that Bruce Boudreau hasn't been a great coach in the NHL.
Right.
But, relies so much on his top players, gives so much ice time. And what we saw in Vancouver is the top players, even when they weren't the top players on certain night, were still getting a ton of ice time. And, I think it was even Connor Garland, coincidentally, who told me last year, because he played for Rick Tocchet in Arizona. And I asked him, was it the same guy, and what should we expect? And he said, everyone's going to feel like they have a role. And Garland said, maybe with Bruce, it was like the same six guys are going to determine whether you win or lose every night. But now everybody feels like they've got a role in that. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. But essentially, there's been a whole new system, some structure, but with accountability, with consequences. And I think that's the kind of coach that this team needed, because there's no question that they have talent. Is it talent enough to win a Stanley Cup? Probably not. But is it talent enough to make the playoffs? Sure, it should be, if you look at it. And they've had this talent for several years. In fact, the breakthrough, we thought, was in the Edmonton bubble in 2020.
Yes.
And all they've done is go backwards and disappoint since then. So it's not about talent. They've scored a ton of goals. Their power play has been great. Clearly, that's not what the problem is. The problem is they've allowed too many goals against. And their penalty killing was historically bad. Not only was it the worst in the NHL last year, for most of the season, it was the worst since the NHL started recording penalty killing back in the 1970s. So it alone was costing them games. So they've spent a lot of time on their penalty kill, which was a lot better in the preseason. And they've brought in a lot of structure, and they've really worked on the defensive half of the game. They brought in, or Tocchet brought in, Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar, who have been hugely important, especially to the defensemen, but also just to the defensive mindset of this team and how you need to defend as five players on the ice at a time. So, in the preseason, I think they won 2 games, but they won the only 2 games that were at Rogers Arena. But uniformly, their team defense was much better. Their penalty killing was fantastically improved, which, as you guys know, means nothing because it was the preseason. But at least there were signs there that these areas, which basically made winning impossible for this team, unless they were going to score 6 goals in a game, which they did sometimes last year. But at least there is indication that these basic platforms are now in place. And now we'll see if these talented guys can play with that structure and find success. Because, Pettersson, Hughes, Demko, these are fantastic individual players. Among the best, and that's not hyperbole, among the best at their positions in the National Hockey League. And I think Demko's 27, Pettersson's 24 going on 25, and Hughes is going to turn 24 on Saturday. These are still young guys. But, can they win? And that's really what Tocchet, his overriding mandate when he came in was, we've got these talented players, teach them how to win. And Tocchet has some very strong ideas about how you have to do that. And a lot of it has to do with how you play without the puck, how tough you are in front of your net, how committed you are to win puck battles. And, we're going to see over the next 280 games, we're going to see.
Yep. IMAC, a couple of things. We're going to hold you to that. We'll talk to you at game 82. Second thing, Joaquin Gage was an excellent preseason player.
Unbelievable.
And third thing, for those that didn't know, the Canucks PK was 71.6% last season. Ian, fantastic to have you on. We would definitely love to have you back, and I look forward to seeing you when you're here in Edmonton.
Well, travel being what it is, trying to get from Edmonton to Philadelphia is not easy. So I'm actually not coming. I'm sorry to say I'm not coming, but it's not an Edmonton thing. I've been there many times.
I know.
I've spent more of my life at the Edmonton Westin than any other hotel in the National Hockey League over the last 30 years. But I do look forward to catching up at some point in person and would love to be back on the show.
Awesome. IMAC, an absolute beauty. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you sooner, hopefully, than later.
Yeah, let's hope for a great game. It's a great night. For opening night, National Hockey League in Canada. Fantastic.
Ian McIntyre from Sportsnet Vancouver. Absolutely great guy. Sorry, Gage.
Oh, no.
That's
good.
True.
It's good.
Great preseason player. You were a good player.
I was a
good player. I want to read this text. We're going to go to one break tonight, one break only, and we're going to get to it right away here. This text comes in from our old friend Brad from Crossfield, who chimes in and says, "Boys, welcome back. There's a lot of excitement tonight for this game. However, the unfortunate part is no matter how good the Oilers are tonight, there is no way they will be as good as Gager's jacket tonight. It is fire." That's from Brad from Crossfield.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks. That's,
absolutely.
It's the slogan that I coined on Oilers Plus last year.
Do tell us.
I for some reason I just grabbed it, and they were away, and I just didn't want to wear a suit jacket, and they said, "Hey, nice jacket," and people were commenting, and the Oilers won. I wore it again. The Oilers won again, and then I just said it as when I'm wearing leather, the Oilers are better, and they went on a roll, and I don't know if it's looking back, Tommy. I don't know if it's the true cause, but this jacket was probably a good 20-0 at one point. So we'll knock on a little bit of the wood here, but I didn't do any playoff games. Right, on Oilers Plus, and I wasn't wearing this in my living room, so I'm going to be wearing this on most Oiler games. We want to save some of the magic a little bit. Yes. I might change it up here or there. I do have a Reg Dunlop in the back of the closet somewhere, but yeah, it's a magical jacket.
Black Cloud says, "Wear that leather, baby." I think YouTube Trev might have to clip that one. When you wear leather, the Oilers are better, or somewhere along those lines. He'll clip it. When we come back, we will get to game changers with Joaquin Gage, as well as any updates to the lineup. We'll also hear from both head coaches as we get set for game number 1 of the 2023-2024 regular season. Oilers at Canucks. You're watching and listening to the Oil Stream Pregame Show right here on Edmonton Sports Talk.
The Lock Shop.
Remember in the dark days of the pandemic when we were sitting around?
Oh, yeah.
What the heck were we doing? Ping pong was huge in the first few months. But yeah, God bless the KBO. I really came to appreciate the bat flips in the KBO.
They didn't mess around, hey?
Shout out to the KT Wiz. Became my favorite team through all of this. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be honest, I'm not hitting a lot of Japanese or Korean baseball right now because there's some big games in the majors that we're hitting right now.
The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for The Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Friend of EST, Eric Thomas, takes you around the track all the way to the checkered flag on Raceline Radio, Tuesday nights at 8 and Saturday morning at 9, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla, as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District, Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com.
In Edmonton, it is game night. The Oilers in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. You're watching and listening to the Oil Stream Pregame Show. Tom Gazzola, Joaquin Gage with you in the EST studios. You got Matthew Iwanek and YouTube Trev rocking it behind the scenes, making sure everything's running smoothly. Tonight, if you want to join the conversation, hit us up via the text line 780-218-9999 or via the nasty chat. I've got a couple of texts that I want to get to before we start rolling into game changers. Hersey chimes in. Hersey says, super excited for the new season. Just pumped overall to have hockey back.
Yeah.
I love it.
How great is it just to, like, it's on in the afternoon. You know, it's like all the pregame shows.
Yep.
Our show coming on and getting ready for puck drop. It's I got chills, Tommy.
Oh, even in that leather jacket. This one says, yes, boys, the Oilers are better when Gager wears the leather. Let's go. Love it, Tommy. That's from Justin. Appreciate it, Justin. Good to hear from you. No swear words from Justin. Justin,
nice.
One who is prone to swears and cussing. Gager, I like this one. Gager looks like a young Michael Knight.
Yeah, well, I wish I had the Trans Am still. That was a little bit younger, but great show. Yeah, it is a little Michael Knight-ish, I guess. Hey,
Knight Rider?
Knight Rider, yeah.
Knight Rider.
Great
Okay.
show.
Good,
Great
good.
show. The Hoff. They should bring that show back. That was a good one.
They did. It flopped.
Oh, really?
It flopped.
Shoot. I mean, well, everyone's got an Apple Watch now, so that was funny. I remember when I first got my Apple Watch and I was talking to it, my buddy said, "Hey, why don't you call Kit and get to meet us around the corner?" So. And I was wearing the leather jacket, too.
Of course you were. The Oilers and Canucks, one of 6 games on the National Hockey League schedule. Ottawa trails Carolina 2-1 after 2. The Leafs up 3-2 on the Habs in Toronto heading into the third period. Boston up 2-1 on Connor Bedard, Taylor Hall, and the Chicago Blackhawks. That one in Beantown. Winnipeg and Calgary get set to go at 8 p.m. So, too, do the Kings, who host the Avalanche, and then the Oilers and Canucks just after 8 p.m. our time. I do think, naturally, there will be the ceremony and all of that.
Yeah.
For a player, Joaquin, big deal for the ceremony, not a big deal. When you're a visiting player, is it annoying? How did you deal with those situations?
As a visitor, it's a little bit easier because you're not really involved, and there's more of a show for the home team. I think that the puck drop probably we'll probably see Quinn Hughes, new captain. He might bring out Stan Smeal, some of the older captains. Really break the champagne on the ship and get things going. I always found it easier for opening night to be on the road. To tell you the truth, you're just focused on this. You don't have to worry about anything else. And I guarantee if you're in the dressing room, the message will be, we don't have to put on the show. They have to put on the show, right? So I'm sure you would hear Coach Woodcroft say something along those lines, get everyone ready to just focus on the game itself. You know what? What's interesting now, actually hearing IMAC talk about the penalty kill, because it was terrible. Like, I felt bad for Thatcher Demko at the beginning of the year last year with the Canucks, because they couldn't. It was automatic that the other
sub 70% at certain points in the season.
It was terrible. And for him to say they've already seen, and it is preseason, but they've seen a lot more structure and a lot more success with it, it's going to get a test tonight. Let's just say that, Tommy.
Oh, it will. It definitely will. A couple of texts coming in. This one says, not sure who said it already. Who is calling the game on Sportsnet? That's from Timber Woodsman. It will be Gene who told us, but it's actually going to be Harner Ryan and Louie on the call, and then Dan Murphy, our good buddy, working rinkside for tonight. So good crew there. That is your broadcast team on Sportsnet just after 8 p.m. puck drop. And then another text comes in, says, who in the heck is the starter tonight? Fish and chips guy, I haven't seen anything. That's from Peter. Well, Peter, guess what? We're going to get to the starters in goal, and that begins with Game Changers, which is brought to you by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting is a consistent, top-producing realtor in Greater Edmonton, and among RE/MAX realtors, he and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Community-driven, he understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out on DamonBunting.com or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Awesome dude. Know him very well personally. Check him out if you're looking to dip into the market, buying or selling. The texter Peter said, who the heck is starting in goal tonight? Well, Peter, I'll tell you what. It will be Thatcher Demko for the Vancouver Canucks. And number one on Game Changers, we're going to talk about the starter for the Edmonton Oilers because Gager soup's on.
And it's hot, which is good. So I have been an advocate of starting Jack Campbell. I think I even mentioned I thought it would be actually irresponsible for Coach Woodcroft to allow Stuart Skinner to start game one. And I mean, the preseason wasn't bad, but Jack Campbell was much better than he was throughout the preseason. So it sends the message that, look, we are on a completely different page as of right now. We're going to see both these guys, I'm sure, in the next two games. But as a goalie, Tommy, it adds that little bit of a carrot. You know, like, okay, if I play well, I'm going to get the net. No one wants to be to be second fiddle. Both guys are going to be needed through this 82-game schedule, but it's nice to be rewarded with good hard work, and I think for Jack Campbell, that's really, really important.
A few days ago or last week, Jay Woodcroft, in his press conference after practice, said to us, open competition. He holds true to that. Like you said, Campbell did win it, no denying that, in preseason and training camp. He had an excellent preseason and training camp. If it was Stuart Skinner tonight, and you were the goalie, and you weren't the guy starting tonight, and you heard your coach say open competition, and he probably told you open competition, and you weren't getting that start tonight, what could it have had on you as a goaltender?
Well, probably a lot, but it shouldn't.
Right.
I think there's a little bit of a light the fire. I would be upset if I would have came in and played against, I would say, more heavily laden NHL teams,
especially that Calgary game.
And I really do think for a goalie in preseason, it's a lot different than a player. You're still facing really good players, really good shots, and there's a little bit of chaos involved. Like we saw, I mean, I almost jumped out of my seat when we were in the press box when Campbell made that glove save. Because it was a broken play and he was still able, like last year, that puck goes in 9 times out of 10. And so just being laser focused like that. I think Campbell would have been able, just seeing this small sample size and how he's been able to prepare for this season, I don't think it would affect him that much, but there would definitely be a little bit of I would have been disappointed with my play, knowing that I outplayed my partner and not getting game one.
I said this even on the Oil Stream this morning with Nielsen. I said, I think Campbell should start but I feel like it'll be Skinner because we had the same discussion going into, I think, games like 4, 5, and 6 of the Vegas Golden Knights series, and it was Skinner every time. So I was like, Skinner was in the starter's net. Skinner was in the starter's net again today. And, I thought to myself, well, that's Jay Woodcroft saying that's our guy. But it looks like, unless something changes and something wild happens when they skate out for warm-up, it will be Jack Campbell. And Campbell's numbers were excellent in the preseason. .99 GAA, .971 save percentage, just 3 goals allowed on 104 shots, and he was facing some quality chances.
Yeah.
So now if you're looking at Stuart Skinner right now, and like you said, we're assuming he'll probably start Saturday, what does his mindset need to be going into Saturday potentially, and then the season, having not won the open competition?
It's a reset, I think, as how Stuart Skinner will probably look at it. It wasn't a bad preseason. There was some suspect goals, and the other guy outplayed you. So, it's I think how you have to be as a goalie. Going, okay, regular season starting. I had a great year last year. Okay, I did a lot of good things.
Yes,
but I can't rest on my laurels. That last year means nothing. Take the good. Take the lessons learned from the previous season as well. But let's face it, his season starts most likely on Saturday night, Tommy, where he can put his stamp on his play and how he's going to contribute to the Edmonton Oilers. Try not to do too much. Just give this team a chance to win. I'm sure he's going to be fine. I've talked about Stuart Skinner. I love the way he plays. His foundational base, even when things are going wrong, it's something to fall back on for him. So I'm looking for 2 huge starts from both Edmonton Oilers goalies this week.
Peter, who got us going on Game Changers, says, "Go, Jack, go. Here we go. Hot soup is on the pot. Here we go, Jack. Here we go, Jack." So Peter is clearly excited. So number 1, soup is on. Jack Campbell getting the nod in goal for the Oilers on opening night. Number 2 in Game Changers, Gager, chemistry.
Yeah, so we're seeing a few different pieces installed into the Oilers lineup. Main piece, I think we're all wanting to see. We saw a glimpse of it, but Connor Brown. They played together in junior. We've seen the clips of them in Erie. There is something. I love that little play that Connor got to him, and you could see the other Connor get ready and knows how Connor plays, and thinks the game. I think the most important thing is he thinks the game at a high level. Everyone says, oh, he plays with Connor McDavid, it's easy. No, you have to think the game so far ahead just to keep up and be part of the supporting cast for Connor in those cases. So I want to see that. We don't know, Broberg, Darnay, if they're going to play together a little bit. I want to see how they operate against a full NHL team and how, if they can eliminate cycling, if they can stop the play, if the ice is tilted the other way, their physical play, how quickly they can go from defense to offense and get that puck moving forward. We've heard guys talk about for the past month of how Broberg has to start using his feet to transport the puck. Vinny Darnay, I love the way, and I don't know if it's that the colored puck things that he's been using in the summertime. But it does seem that it's almost like a chess player, Tommy, where you're looking a few moves ahead, and I noticed it a few times where he's looking before he gets the puck, knowing where he's moving into, and it happens very fast. So we don't want Darnay moving, like lugging the puck up the ice. I think he's best physical. First option's always the best with him, moving the puck. But that's the other thing I want to see tonight mostly.
With that pair, they got flack. I think from a vocal minority from the fan base. Do you think it was unwarranted, or do you think that there's some merit towards it?
No, I understand it. It's young defensemen. I don't think it's warranted, though. I think both are capable of taking huge steps this year, and let's face it, they're going to have to take huge steps. Do the Oilers have that defenseman that you consider a top 5 Norris candidate? Because when you look back at Stanley Cup champions, you always see one of those guys kind of on that team. they're going to have to do this by committee.
Right.
I think they just don't have that. I mean, we'll see how Bouchard does on the power play, and he could get up there with points and might even be considered at some point. But that all-around just shut-down guy on both sides. So it's like I said, it's going to have to be committee on the back end.
Yep.
And guys, not only with Broberg and Desharnais, but I really think Bouchard, he took a step when Ekholm came. Now it's even time for him to take another step and just be that just deadly solid defenseman.
I want to see that happen as well. I think he's capable of it. There was someone who suggested a couple of weeks ago, this was a viewer listener that said that Bouchard was basically Barry. But I disagree with that statement. When you hear something like that, and listen, it's subjective. We all have our opinions on these players and how they perform. Certainly, we heard Darnell Nurse kind of push back on some of the rhetoric surrounding him. Look for him to have a better season, more composed, all that stuff. But when you hear a comparison like, oh, Bouchard is just the next Barry, what differences do you point to immediately where it separates the two?
Well, let's look at... We have to compare them at the same time. Like, let's look back when Barry was with the Colorado Avalanche, right? Like, he was very dynamic offensive, but a little bit suspect on the back end.
Fair.
Okay?
Yeah.
I think you could say that there's been times that Bouchard hasn't been had success in his own end and looked sometimes out of place. But with the addition of Ekholm, we saw that calming presence and that ability to read off your play. They had great. We talk about chemistry. They had great chemistry.
Yes.
That's if I'm Coach Manson, I'm thinking at least I have that arrow in the quiver to fall back on. I know what I have with those two if things kind of get out of hand. But if I look at them at the same time, Tommy, I do think that Evan Bouchard is a couple notches ahead of Barry at this point on the defensive side.
Okay.
That power play is ridiculous, and I think the confidence level of Bouchard is actually higher than Barry's ever was. We saw Barry defer a lot and not use that shot that he had. Mm-hmm. Bouch looks to use that weapon, I think, a lot more than Barry did, and he has the ability to beat goalies from distance with that thing, especially when you have the constant screens that you'll have with Hyman and Brown and Kane at certain points. He's going to have a very successful year, point-wise.
Point-wise, absolutely. I think Barry was on pace for like a 70-point season last year, and then trade happened. But you know what? You got to give something to get something. The Oilers did that, and we'll see if Evan Bouchard can continue to carry the mantle there on the point on the power play. All right, we are in Game Changers. Number 1 was Soups On. Number 2, Chemistry. Of course, Game Changers brought to you by Damon Bunting, Remax Elite. Number 3, Joaquin Gage. First win.
Yeah, there's nothing like winning your first game that there's nerves tonight. Even if you've played a 700 games, the first game of the year, it's always an emotional time just to get off on the right track. I think it's important for the Oilers. They're going up against a team that they're going to have to take points away from to finish where they want to. It's a team that they should beat, I think. And just establishing that. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what goes through the length of that 82-game schedule? It might turn out that you're playing this team for very meaningful games down the stretch. Establishing winning in Vancouver now and early can only suit the team even better. And you want to come home, have the 2 points, looking to beat the same team you played again in a few nights' time.
The Oilers play the Canucks 4 times this season. They will play tonight. They'll play Saturday. Then they play November 6th. And then the season series wraps up in April on the 13th, which is the 4th last game of the season. It'll be the last regular season Saturday game. A bit odd, but, I mean, at least they're playing them 4 times. We saw last year the only 3 games against Calgary. It was wrapped up by, December 27th. So they will see Canucks action later in the year. Maybe Vancouver's in the mix at that point.
See, and that's what I mean. You establish beating that team. Yep. That game late in the season, that could be quite meaningful for standings in the playoffs or making the playoffs themselves. You want to feel good about going up against a team that you've had success against.
So we will see the Canucks again Saturday, November 6th as well, and then April 13th. You could text us if you're tuning in, 780-218-9999, or in the nasty chat. I'm going to dip into the nasty chat. I'm going to dip into the text line, and I'm also going to go check out some stuff that's being said on Twitter. Yes, it's great to be back, and we told you we were bringing back the pre- and post-game show. Gager in for Matty Cassian. You're going to see Gager more this season. You're going to see him as well on the Sportsnet broadcasts. I ran into Mac T, your colleague over at Sportsnet as well. Good to see him. He's excited and ready to get going. I think you're going to get some games early from what I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you and Struddy can share.
Oh, geez. What's Mac got planned? I didn't get invited for the trip, I guess.
Oh well, something's, yeah. I could be wrong, but from what he told me yesterday, it looks like you're going to be a busy guy.
Anytime Mac puts me in, it's a good thing because it didn't happen much when I play.
Gager, you're one of our go-to guys. You know
Perfect.
that. We love you. All right, this text comes in from Brett. Says, Gager out here dressed like the villain from I Know What You Did Last Summer if he has to attend a business meeting. The Oilers are better when he's in the leather. I like that this is becoming a thing.
Yeah.
When you're in the leather, the Oilers are better.
Might have to get a shirt.
We'll see what we can do. We know a guy, and we know Matthew has a connection with the Hive. Maybe there's a shirt to be made there at some point. Big Dave says, seems like all of Alberta is ready for the Oil tonight. I've been in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and Lloydminster today, and I've seen Oilers jerseys in all of them. Glad to hear you guys back. Hoping the Oil can pull out a win for my birthday. Go Oil. Big Dave, happy birthday, pal. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'll go into the nasty chat. Renato, good to hear from Renato, says, gents, great to have you doing these shows, the pregame and postgame. Loving the look. Yes. And it was you that forced me to put on the tie.
Yeah.
And you didn't say anything. You just showed up with the tie, and I was like, I'm going to put the tie on because I was just going to go blazer and
well, when you said I was on the inaugural pre and post game show, it's a big deal, Tommy. You gotta dress the part. And,
I agree.
So I was quite pumped to come in here and do this again. I didn't know how many. I enjoyed my time on Oilers Plus last year with Paige and Tony, but it's good to be able. I love coming in and talking about hockey before and after, and especially once we get the ball rolling and the peaks and valleys and the nasty chat.
Yes,
it's on in my house all the time, just listening to everybody talk. So keep it coming. This is going to be a fun season. Let's make sure everyone's doing a lot of shoulder shrugs, maybe some arm lifts, because I don't know. I'm predicting a lot of trophy raising at the end of this.
Oh, Gager, look at that. Look at that. The team's not on the ice yet for warm-up. Carmen asking, has it been confirmed if Ekholm is in or out? We expect him to be out. He was skating late at the optional pregame or morning skate with Stuart Skinner, which is generally an indicator that he will not play. Yesterday watching him, he was rotating with Marcus Niemelainen, and that's a sign he's not going to play. We know Niemelainen, when he's cleared and gets a clean bill of health, will be sent down to Bakersfield. And so that was an indicator. But he did rotate in a few times with Broberg, but they're kind of mixing it up at times. Is it too hard to just throw him into the mix like tonight?
Yeah, why risk it? I think, Tommy. I'm matching up the two lineups. This is a game that the Oilers should win on paper, and giving him the proper rest that he needs. From the beginning of the season, I want Ekholm to be 100%.
Okay.
I want everyone to be 100% going in. You know, you don't want to go into the regular season with something nagging, a nagging injury that could possibly put you out for longer, further on into the season when you're counted on more. So I have no problems with Ekholm maybe missing the first week if that's what it takes. If it goes past that, I guess it depends on the Oilers' record at that point to see if I get worried about it. But the other thing that's a little bit troublesome for me too, in a way, because there was the captain skates and he's been with the team and skating, it's not like he's done some work already, but we all know how hard it is to get back up to game pace, right? And even for a veteran like Mattias Ekholm, there is going to be that timing to get it down, to get used to the speed. But let him rest. get them to 100%, and then unleash them.
You look at the schedule, they have days between games
Yeah.
here. So they play tonight, 2 days off, or not off, but no game days until Saturday, and then they get 2 days, again, no game days until they face the Nashville Predators. Then they have a day between games, then they're in Philadelphia, then they fly back, then they have a day, and then they have Winnipeg, and then they have 2 days, and then they're in Minnie, and then they have a day, and then they're at home to New York, then they have 2 days, and then they face Calgary on a Sunday to wrap up the month. And then, oh, look at that, a couple of days between games before they kick off the November schedule, which goes on the Thursday against the Stars. Then they have a day between games, Saturday against the Preds, 1 o'clock start. Are you worried about the afternoon starts this year?
No, they were good in the afternoon last year. They've gotten over that hill. I think that's.
Yeah.
I hated them. It's just it always sent my clock into a spin. But the Oilers were quite successful in afternoon games last year.
Yeah, they were, surprising. And like, I'm looking at this calendar, I'm not seeing back-to-back games for a while, Gage. Or like, there's separation. 21st and 22nd of December, New Jersey, New York, and they're not even flying in between. They're going to be parked at one hotel when they get into New York City on that trip, probably the Sunday the 17th. Then they play on Long Island. Then they have a day between games. Then they play the Devils in Jersey, and then they have a day between games, and they wrap up that trip. Technically, it's a longer road trip because they head out west when they come after the Christmas break, but they wrap up against the Rangers. So, like, this schedule looks very comfortable.
Great for goalies. I mean,
Yeah.
if it in a perfect world, you're just flip-flopping, right?
Yeah.
And nice for the goalie if and I'm sure Woodcroft has talked to the goalies and laid out a plan with Dustin Schwartz and has an idea of how he wants the first probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 games to go. Like, these guys probably know what teams they're playing against so they can prepare. And just giving them that extra day in between and gives them the opportunity to watch film, see what other teams' power plays are doing, who's got certain tendencies. There's some new players have shifted around, so everything's going to look a little bit different. From a goalie standpoint, this suits the Oilers tandem quite well, where you can get a lot of preparation in for each individual game.
There's a text that came in via our text line, 780-218-9999. Nasty chat going on. I will dip into that as well, but we're going to go into the text line from Fordo74. This is for you, and Fordo asks, Gager, if you were the goalie coach, in parentheses, apply please, would you run the goalies 3 games straight each as a routine?
It completely depends on the schedule, right? Like, if it's 3 games and the other guy's sitting for 3 weeks, I don't want to do that, right? You have to match it up. That's what I just said. If looking at the schedule, the games in between, I think it suits to have a rotation of 1 and 1 for each guy. Maybe because you have 2 goalies with track records, maybe you look at past records against other teams. I know, like, sitting out Leon Draisaitl against the Nashville Predators would be absolutely ridiculous because he just feasts on them, right?
Yes.
So that's maybe as a coach, you would look at that as well, success in different buildings. But for me personally, looking at the schedule right now, I think the way it would suit best is just a steady rotation because of the breaks that you have in between.
All right, let's go to the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Jay Woodcroft, who spoke following the team's optional morning skate today in Vancouver. When we return, we'll get to lineup notes as the teams are hitting the ice for warm-up at Rogers Arena right now. Here's Jay Woodcroft.
Of the preparation, I know the players got in really early, long camp, long preseason. The day has finally come. What it entails for you and the group?
Well, today it feels like you studied for a long time to begin to take a test, and I think there's a jump in everybody's step. Like you said, the players came in early, put in a lot of hard work on their own, and then I think we've had a real productive camp here. The last couple of days of practice have had good spirit about it, but ultimately we want to make sure we're ready and ready to come out and execute tonight.
Gee, I know you're always focused on the day's business, but a lot of projections in the hockey media world specifically has Edmonton ranked pretty high and potentially going all the way. How do you let that not affect the day-to-day?
Well, I think, like you said, I think where you put your focus is important. And as the coach of the team, my focus is on making sure that we're the best that we can be on that given day. Prognostications are left to this group right here. That's their job. Our job is to make sure that we're performing at our capability day in, day out. And, as I said yesterday to the assembled media, I like where our team's at, but ultimately we're about to take a test, and that starts tonight against a very good Vancouver Canucks team.
I'll ask you a favorite question.
Sure.
Do you have a starting goalie?
See what comes out the gate tonight. I had a bet on who was going to ask it, so I had Stoff as the guy.
So Jay, Jack Campbell was the first goalie off the ice. What has he shown you here through the preseason, and where's your confidence level at? Maybe compared to a year ago when Stuart Skinner was a little bit unproven, and especially factoring in how Campbell performed in the preseason.
I think the reality of today's NHL is that it's a two-goalie league, and we feel really good about both of our goalie options. We'll see what comes out the gate tonight.
Ekholm is still out there, by the looks of it, skating late. Usually those guys don't play tonight. Do you, your thoughts on an 11-6 line?
We have 11-7, so we'll see what comes out the gate tonight. We have a lot of. I thought we had a really good camp. Obviously, there were some guys that with some bumps and bruises and some healing to do, but we like our options here tonight.
You had to start last season shorthanded.
Yep.
You're comfortable in that format. Does it matter to you guys? Obviously you want your full roster.
For me, I don't even think about that. I think we have 20 players available, and we're ready to execute unless I'm told differently.
Jay, you've been in the league a long time. Does the lust of opening night still have an effect on you?
Sorry?
Does the lust of opening night still have an effect on you? Pretty special.
Well, I think what opening night is it's an opportunity where everybody feels good about the season that's ahead of them. Now, different teams have different measurements of what a good season is. Different teams have different focal points heading into the season. But I think, I was watching hockey last night. I was excited to see games that counted for points, and I thought it was a high level displayed on night one, and we're looking to play our best tonight, as I said, against a really good opponent in the Vancouver Canucks that play hard and had a pretty good preseason.
Jay, you just made a good point about different teams have different definitions of what a good season is. Mm-hmm. Are you excited about what you believe this team has in terms of a definition of a good season?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the potential of the group that Ken Holland has assembled, that is led by our captain Connor McDavid. I'm a big believer that our team can do some special things here, but I'm also a believer that for us to be at our best, we have to have a daily commitment to playing towards our full potential, and that's where our focus is. We do that. All the results, they take care of themselves.
Guys are getting such good shape in the summer. They work really hard now.
Yep.
Captain skate started on September 5th.
Yep.
Then training camp, 8 full games, and now your season starts, and you got 3 significant players that have had injuries. They're nursing injuries starting the season. Mm-hmm. Now that preseason is over, do you debrief on that and maybe consider the workload on these guys before the season starts?
No, I think they're in such great. I think that's common to have nicks for any team. You look at the rosters around the league spec, I would say. I think I saw something yesterday that said one team starting with a 20-man roster. A bunch of teams are starting with a 21-man roster. You look around the lineup, I think that team over there is going to start with 11-6 tonight. So, things happen in training. Things happen in preseason. It's hard to control that stuff. I like the look in our team's eye. I like our health. I think we're in a good spot. See how we roll here tonight.
All right, that's Jay Woodcroft, courtesy of Oilers TV. So he wasn't giving away much this morning. We do know now that the team is on the ice at Rogers Arena for warm-up. No surprises, Gagers. So no Ekholm tonight. It will be Jack Campbell in goal. They are actually playing with 11-6. So for another year, back-to-back seasons now, they've started with a 17-man or skater roster in the game. Not ideal.
Not ideal. But you heard Woodcroft mention there's a lot of teams doing the exact same thing. So everyone's in the same boat. We'll probably, with salary cap raising next year, probably that this will be a thing of the past, hopefully, because, sometimes there's being a former bubble player, and it's starting the season, maybe not on the ice, but being on the roster is important as well, and being with the big club too, learning how the NHL operates, especially for young players. I think it's a missed opportunity sometimes with younger talent.
Fair point. Just to reiterate, McDavid with Kane and Brown, Draisaitl with Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman, and McLeod between Holloway and Fogle. Janmark and Ryan are the extra forwards. Nurse paired up with Bouchard, Kulak and Ceci, Broberg with Desharnais. Jack Campbell is your starter in goal. Janmark, Ryan, are we going to see a ton of them? And where does your concern level with Ryan McLeod sit, considering he didn't play any preseason game?
A little bit, but such a good skater. I think once you've heard it before, you get into the game, give a hit, take a hit. I think he can get by with his skating ability. I love the way he transports the puck. It's unfortunate that he wasn't able to get into many preseason games because it's a different animal, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
when you get from the preseason and then all of a sudden you start playing against a bunch of regular NHLers, and the emotion ramps up a lot too, and even more so throughout the year. And then you get to playoffs, and it even goes to a different level. So maybe that helps him, because the last real hockey that he's actually played was Stanley Cup playoffs, so it should be a little bit fresh in his mind.
How about this, Joaquin Gage, from Brendan Batchelor? The Canucks going 11-6 as well.
Wow, that's there'll be interesting matchups tonight. Like I want to see best on best. That's always fun to watch. I want to see Quinn Hughes and Connor McDavid. Quinn Hughes kind of last game in the preseason, we saw how dynamic he can be, and what a focal point. He starts a lot of the offense starts with him, right? So I'm looking forward to that. But look, when we match up these lines, on paper, the Oilers have a more dominant team. So I think you even said it. I'd like to see the Oilers become a little bit more bullyish and be bullies, you know. And I think just with the taste of last year and everything and the way the maturation process of the leadership group, I want to see just a steady, hard game that the Oilers play that it is difficult for other teams to keep up with. They can get there, but they cannot sustain it, and that's when the Oilers just drop the hammer and take over games. A lot kind of how, if you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, that's how they played.
From game 1 through game 100 and whatever. That's how Vegas is so consistent. And then I thought Colorado was the same, and you can go back to the Lightning when they went back-to-back. I know the broken-up season was weird with the bubble, but Tampa came out of the gates fantastic the following year, and they just continued on. Yeah,
and that's that hunger for success. And I think the Oilers do have that. And but looking at previous years, I feel there were times when they let the foot off the gas, right? I think
absolutely.
And that's something that needs to be learned. And you need to learn that, geez, I need to do this. It's not a switch that you can turn on. This is where you learn through the regular season how to become a winner, how to wear down another team. I always reference it to a boxing match. Like it's a body punch, just sapping the energy out of the other teams,
right?
And creating that splinter in the back of their mind going, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that I play a full 60 against this team, or there's no chance. There's no chance we're going to be successful. So that's the kind of fear and bullyish I want to see from the Oilers this year.
Well, this is the Canucks lineup that might get bullied by the Oilers and will try to push back. It will be Pettersson between Kuzmenko and Garland, Miller with DiGiuseppe and Besser, Puce suitor with Dakota Joshua and Anthony Beauvillier. And then the 2 extra forwards, Lafferty and Hoaglander. So no Teddy Bluger. We knew he was nicked up and a game-time decision. As for the defensemen, no Carson Soucy because I should have said projected before IMAC came on earlier. Hughes with Hronik, Cole with Myers, Akito Hiroshi will slot in with Noah Juleson, and then Thatcher Demko in goal for the Canucks. So if you're the Oilers and you want to be the bully and make it automatic and always wear your team down and deliver those body blows, I'm looking at that third pairing, and I'm even looking at Cole and Myers going, hey, jump on them. Is that fair to say?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, for a line matchup point, you're just rolling them, I think, with Woodcroft. You want to see what you have a little bit, but I would like to see the McLeod line assert their dominance and make it very difficult for whoever they're matched up against, the Canucks, that they don't get any momentum from those so-called energy lines, right? You don't want to lose the motivational battle between that. I hate saying bottom 6, but in that area of your team, you want to dominate that area.
Right. Text from Sean says, Coach Jay still taking a page out of Coach Aiken's book, referring to those eyes. You can see it in their eyes.
Everyone's a nasty.
Everyone's a nasty. Nasty chat going strong. We'll dip into that right away. Right now, we're going to hear from another coach. It is the bench boss for the Vancouver Canucks, Rick Tocchet.
A couple guys skated early this morning, so it'll be game time on a couple guys, but they skated early today. They got to take one more test.
Any chance Mikheyev plays tonight?
No.
This weekend, maybe?
He's progressing. I don't want to pin it, but he's obviously close. He's been working really hard.
So will you have a full complement then of 4 lines of forwards and full sets of D?
We'll know at 7:00. Tonight. I mean, we got a couple of guys who got a test next hour or two. They're doing one more test.
I guess Bluger would be in that. You mentioned the other day you expect him back on the ice. Sorry. You expected Bluger back on the ice because he said it was hard to keep him off the practice ice. Is he one of those guys that's testing himself for tonight?
Yeah, we got to get a test on him. He's a heart and soul type of guy, but I don't want to jeopardize him. So we'll see how he feels later. Still we got 6 hours, so we'll see.
You probably didn't imagine this when you guys went to training camp because you're so looking forward to a full camp, a full preseason, having a full roster, and yet you get thrown this curveball. How much of it is an adjustment for you as a coach?
Well, whether it's the opening night or it's in December, whether it's March or April, you're dealt these type of things sometimes. Adversity hits, we went through the flu bug and stuff, but every team goes through this stuff. It's, just more magnified as it's opening night. If it's in December, it's probably not as magnified, but because it's opening night, it's more magnified.
We asked JT Miller, is this a better team than a year ago? And of course, the player doesn't want to answer that question, but he did admit that because of a full camp with you and a full training camp, maybe the team is better positioned than it was before in terms of structure and understanding what has it. Do you agree with that in terms of your time here?
I think players want to know where to be in certain situations. I think we're still getting there, but I think they have an understanding where to be in certain situations. Obviously, the PK was a major stuff that had to be addressed here over the years, and that's one of the positives we came out of camp. Where we had full bunch of guys that could penalty kill, and that was one of our bright spots in camp. We did well in the penalty kill.
Was Soucy one of the guys that skated this morning?
Yeah, he went early. So. Like I said, it's going to be the feel, type of thing.
On Akito, if he plays, what do you need to see from him? Because he only played one preseason game.
Yeah.
Why is he the choice to be the guy that comes back up?
Hockey IQ. You're playing a team of Edmonton that throws a lot of different looks at you, and you need hockey IQ. Obviously, you want people to squash plays. I get it, but there's certain setups that they do. You need brains out there, and he has them. I think him coming up last year playing, I forget how many games he played, 7? I think that was big for us. I know we were in the playoffs and they're different type of levels of game, but he still played NHL games. So I just feel he gives us a better opportunity to go in there tonight.
Why didn't you take a longer look at him in preseason, given all that?
Well, we had a couple of the guys, we wanted, we only had 6 exhibition games. I wanted to make sure we had, some of our regulars had 4 months off, so I wanted to get them in there. So you got to find that sweet spot. And a couple other guys, we gave them a longer look. We thought they would, to be honest with you, be ahead, and they weren't. And this is kind of what we're at now.
If you do go with 11 forwards, how do you work with the rotations on getting even ice time and not overplaying certain players?
Yeah, no, if that happens tonight, it's happened before a couple times with me, and it's you got to really be strategic, right? Lafferty can play center, which is good. I like the fact that we have a lot of hybrids, guys who play wing and center, so he can spell Millers and PD and Suter. So I got to make sure. We got 2 days off between our next game. We had 5 days off. If some guys are going to play 20, 22 minutes, they can handle it. So I'm not really worried about that. And sometimes guys play better, when they get in the game more, I don't think you want to steady die of it, but for a game, it's okay.
We've heard Elias kind of rise up to the challenge a lot of time to play against some of the best players in the world. Is that what you're hoping for tonight against McDavid and Draisaitl?
Yeah, I mean, your best players want to play against the other best players, right, and show what they got. Yeah, I know Huggy, they're just chomping a bit to play. And you're playing against a team that, is one of the favorites to win the Cup. They got 2 of the best players that, they're not saying it, but obviously they feel they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. So why not measuring stick right now? That's awesome for us. I think this is a great challenge, and it should be fun for us. We should embrace it.
I'm sure there's some excitement from the players, but from just speaking.
There you go. There is Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet going through the pains of the lineup injuries and situations he's dealing with. So he talked about Bluger being nicked up, Soucy being nicked up. They are not playing tonight. The Canucks actually going with 11 and 6, just like the Oilers are. Do you take anything from what Rick Tocchet dished out today? Because it wasn't thrilling stuff. He said, litmus test. This is an Oilers team gunning for a Stanley Cup. Get a test right out of the gate. Yeah,
that's basically what you do in these types of scenarios. You're going up against a team that's, like he said, is favored to win the Stanley Cup. It is a measuring stick, right? And everyone's competitive. And even though, like, the message in the Canucks locker room is hey, we've made some changes now. We got our goalie back. We're situated where we think we can make the playoffs. And if anything, the last few years of the NHL playoffs have taught us is once you're in, who knows what can happen. I mean, the Florida Panthers, what they were able to accomplish last year is absolutely amazing. Just basically going into the playoffs ass backwards and battling for the Stanley Cup by the end of it. And, barring a few injuries, probably could have equated themselves a little bit better. But so that's got to be the mindset of the Vancouver Canucks, right? So this is a team, again, if we want to get to where we ultimately want to go, we're going to have to beat them at some point.
Right.
Might as well start tonight.
And that's from a Canucks standpoint. Absolutely. All right. 6 games on the NHL schedule tonight. I saw in the nasty chat people talking about the Habs-Leafs game being absolute fire. 5-5 going into OT there. You made a prediction while we were listening to Rick Tocchet speak.
Yeah, Josh Anderson usually scores the winner in these cases. That's always they never disappoint. Leafs, Habs,
opening night.
Hate both teams, but I love to see them just beat the crap out of each other. And usually I don't mind the Habs winning late at the end, especially when the Leafs are supposed to battle and the Habs are rebuilding. So sends me home happy, Tommy.
Which team, city, whatever, did you prefer playing in and against, Leafs or the Habs?
Oh gosh,
because did you not get a start at Maple Leaf Gardens, or you played? You
definitely played I played in Maple Leaf Gardens. I didn't. No, I didn't play. I backed up.
Oh, okay.
But I played in the new one. I would have to say Montreal. Again, when if you ever get a chance to go to a Habs game on a Saturday night,
magic.
You just get up in the morning and start walking around the streets of Montreal, and the flags go out. Everyone is preparing. It's like religion. there
Yes.
Saturday night, Habs game. It was the first time when I went into an NHL arena and the whole lower bowl was full. I mean, lots of times people come down to the ice, but people were actually in their seats watching warm up. Like that was how it was. It was a gathering of sorts, and just the whole start of it, the history of the team, everything leading up to it. That was it's an emotional time to play in Montreal. Probably the best city to go play in or be a part of.
Yeah, you saying that hockey and the Habs are like a religion in Montreal reminded me of a story Rick Chartrand told me. Rick Chartrand won a cup with the Oilers in '84, so they had that 30-year reunion, and we did a documentary on it. And Chartrand played for the Habs during their run in the 70s. And I asked him, like, after we finished our interview talking about the Oilers Cup run in '84, I was like, what was Montreal like playing on all those great Habs teams? And he goes, well, I can tell you this. We were one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, we won a bunch of Stanley Cups. But there was the day after a game that we were supposed to win and we lost. I was walking into the players' entrance from the parking lot at the old Montreal Forum, and a nun came up to me yelling at me in French and hitting me with her cane. So that it's literally like a religion.
It is.
there.
It is.
So,
I mean, Toronto's no different too. I remember playing in Hamilton, and I believe it was Gilmore, and I want to say Domi. I think it was him. I can't. But they had drove to Hamilton to go to a bar and have a beer because they were on a big losing streak, and we were in there, and I forget who it was. What are you guys doing here? He goes, well, we can't go out in Toronto. We gotta if we want to go for a beer, we got to drive into Hamilton. It's fine here.
Wow. Oh, Leafs fans can be crazy too. All right, it will be Campbell versus Demko in goal. Let's get to a couple of texts here to wrap things up. Stuart says, I don't want to pump your tires too much, but both of you look sharp, Gager. You set the precedent today. In all seriousness, I felt deflated with the playoff exit, but feels like a new start this year. I trust this leadership to keep the ship steady through the regular season and amp it up for the playoffs. That's from Stuart. And at times, Gager, in the last few years, we had heard people and rumblings and grumblings about the leadership group, and they need to be better leaders. That's starting to go away, and you're hearing Stuart bring up points like this where he expects them to keep the ship right and tight throughout the regular season and amp it up in the playoffs.
Well, just look no further than what happened with the Connor McDavid getting everyone in. Not only putting it out there, we want everyone in, but everyone getting in and doing these caps. And from all accounts, it was it wasn't just messing around. These guys were going through the paces here and getting ready to hit the ground running. So and there's always something to be said about a team that there's young families now involved, and so there's it's not just a bunch of young kids anymore. And when's the last time you were able to say that about an Oilers team over the past decade? So there's maturity. I think the leadership is quite strong. I was watching Darnell Nurse say something on social media how his projections for the year, and it was sending goosebumps down my arms hearing how he was talking. And so I think they're uniquely situated with that core group that stayed together for a long time, and with the pieces that they've added, leadership is not an issue with the Edmonton Oilers. I could say that right now.
That's a good thing, and people can rest assured in knowing that. All right, it all starts tonight. The Oilers rolling out with an 11-6 lineup. So too are the Vancouver Canucks. I don't think I've ever experienced an opening night with both teams dressing 17 skaters, but we'll see how it plays out to whose advantage. I'm assuming likely to Edmonton's, but they're going to be facing a fired-up Vancouver Canucks team on their home opener. Any final thoughts from you, Gager?
I just can't wait, man. This is the start of a lot of fun and probably maybe a few disappointing nights, let's just say that. But all I can say is I'm ready for it, and I can't wait to enjoy this ride.
All right. I'm glad to have you on the first pregame show and postgame later on today. Matty Cassian will be back. Great job stepping in for Cass, as always, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. That does it for the Oil Stream pregame show right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. To everyone who tuned in, texted in, watched, we appreciate you. Smash that thumbs up button, and we'll be back for the Oil Stream postgame show with Joaquin Gage following the Oilers and the Canucks. For YouTube, Trev, Matthew, Wannick, and Gager, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy game number 1.